Welcome to Retirement Rescue Radio, a show specifically designed to help retirees and pre-retirees maximize their financial efficiency so you can live the retirement lifestyle you've always imagined. Your host is Nate Miller, investment advisor representative and author of the CPR Retirement Rescue Roadmap. Nate discusses thoughts and ideas from some of today's most knowledgeable professionals in the field of finance. He offers strategies along the way to help you make better financial decisions so you can maximize your retirement. This is Retirement Rescue Radio.
Social Security is going away. That's what a lot of people think. A lot of people think that the Social Security Administration's going bankrupt, and we all get those letters that say by 2024 or 2034 or 2035, depending on which one you read and which math or who's doing the math. I believe Social Security is not going to go away. There are a lot of levers that can still be pulled. I'm Nate Miller, founder of Miller Retirement Group. This is Retirement Rescue Radio. And today we're going to be talking about changes that Americans are willing to make to fix Social Security. Turns out there's a lot of them. So there was an article in CNBC. Let's see here. And this was talking about, all of the different things. This was a survey of over 2,000 people that they surveyed for this, about 2,500 people that they surveyed for this. And they wanted to know what would they be willing to accept and what would they not be willing to accept. So here we go. The first thing they'll be willing to accept is going to be, let's see here, sorry about that. I want to get everything perfect because not only do they show in this article what the public is going to be willing to actually do in order to help fix Social Security, but they also talk about how much of the shortfall each one of these different items would cover. And the first one is going to be, here we go, increasing the level of income at which Social Security payroll taxes are applied. And so I know in 2022, that was like about $147,000 in income, and that's adjusted for inflation every single year. So 2023 was a little higher. 2024 is even a little bit higher than that. And so they wanted to increase that. So instead of stopping at 147 plus whatever the index for inflation is, they wanted to start it again at 400,000. So that creates what a lot of people call a donut hole. So it'll still have that initial cap of 150, 160, wherever it's sitting at right now. It'll have that cap, and then it won't start again until 400,000. So call it 150. So about from 150,000 to 400, there's that donut hole, right? But then anybody making over $400,000 will start to pay into Social Security again. That one thing, that one little change right there is actually the biggest mover. That moves the dial more than any of the other suggestions. And what they did in this poll was they actually polled or surveyed registered voters, and they wanted to find what would Republicans and Democrats both be for. Right? What bipartisan changes can happen in order for this to work? And what's interesting about this, 81% of the survey respondents supported this strategy. 81%. And that would eliminate 61% of the shortfall. It was actually split pretty evenly. 79% of Republicans and 88% of Democrats supported that one. And so that average to 81% supported that strategy, and that would eliminate 61% of the shortfall. 61%, that's huge. Huge. Over half of the shortfall would be taken care of just with that one move. Almost 2/3 of the shortfall just with that one move right there. And you know what? I am not one who really loves the idea of higher taxes at all. I'm normally not going to vote for higher taxes or new taxes. I'm not going to do that. But the Social Security trust fund, it's in trouble. We know that it's got financial issues. And so there has to be some kind of a shared sacrifice in order to make this happen. And I actually agree with starting it again at 400 instead of just kicking the cap way up. keeping the cap, but then starting it again, because I feel like there's a lot more, not only I feel like, but I mean, you can just look at the statistics on like tax brackets and stuff, that there's far more people that are still over that $150,000 mark, but maybe not at the $400,000 mark. There's a lot more of those than there are those that are over 400,000. And so it's going to affect the fewest number of people negatively. And at that point, arguably, those are going to be people with a little bit more discretionary income that could really afford to be able to do that. Like I said, I'm not for redistribution of wealth or, stuff like that as just a general rule. But like I said, this is already in place. The Social Security Administration has issues. This needs to be taken care of. So some kind of shared sacrifice has to happen. So there we go. There's my feelings on that. It's like bittersweet, So with that being said, let's talk about the other things here too. Now, there was also really strong support for gradually raising the retirement age to 68. Currently, if you're born 1960 or after, your full retirement age is 67. And so this included about 75% of Republicans, 76% of Democrats. So almost exactly the same. And that would reduce 14% of the shortfall. So we've got now 61%, 14%. And there's another one here, which is reducing benefits for higher earners. The article doesn't exactly say how much those would be reduced, but some kind of formula to reduce the benefits for high earners. And that had 81% support, guys, 81%. That included 78% of Republicans, 86% of Democrats. And that would reduce the amount of benefits that the top 20% of the earners receive. So, okay, I guess there it is, 20%, and would reduce that shortfall by 11%. If you don't know where the top 20% of earners go, then you can just go look search some different tax brackets and do the math, and you'll find out how much you have to earn in order to be one of the top 20% of income earners. And so, that would reduce the shortfall by 11%. So now we've got 61%, 11%, 14%. So if you're doing the math here, we're up about 86%. 86% of the shortfall now is taken care of. So that's pretty cool. And then this last one here, there was really strong support, weirdly, for increasing the payroll tax, with 73% voting in favor of this. So currently, employers and employees each pay 6.2% of their wages into Social Security. So the employee pays 6.2%, and then the employer pays the other 6.2%. And this called for raising that to 6.5%. So it's from 6.2 to 6.5, and that would eliminate 16% of the shortfall. And that actually had 73% support, 70% Republican, 78% Democrat. And so now, again, if you're continuing with the math, the last one was 86. So you add another 16%, we're up to 102% of the shortfall has now been covered with those things. So what does that mean? That means not only are we now covering the shortfall and hitting break even, but we now can actually start building surplus again in the trust fund. That's what those changes mean. Here's the problem. They also wanted to find out if anybody would support benefit increases. And wouldn't you know it? Yes, if somebody can vote more money in for themselves, they're going to do it. That's kind of a, no-brainer. But the question is, what percentages would that increase the shortfall again? So now we're at 102% of shortfall covered. So now we're back to building a surplus. Well, one of the big things that they wanted to do here was raise the minimum benefit. Raise the minimum Social Security benefit. That was the most popular of the options. 64% actually supported that. 59% Republican, 71% Democrat. And that change would bring the minimum benefit for someone who has worked for 30 years up to about $1,300 a month instead of $950. And that would then therefore increase the shortfall back by another 7%. And so now we're back in the, not on 100%, we're back in a shortfall again. We've only got 95% of our shortfall covered at this point. Now that would kick it out a lot farther. That would still push that shortfall out much longer. It would not happen at 2034 or 2035 anymore. That will push it out quite a bit still, because we're at 95% right now. Survey respondents also supported changing the way cost of living adjustments were determined, and that would increase the shortfall by another 12%. And so now we're at like 83. So we've got an 83% of the shortfall covered. So we're still missing 17%. But then there was one final increase that the survey found that included, increasing the benefits for beneficiaries over 80 by another 5%. And so if you hit 80, then they're going to start increasing those benefits by 5% too. And that would increase the shortfall by 5%. So we kind of sat right back down at 78% of the shortfall is covered, but 22% would not with those changes right there. Now, that still doesn't get rid of the shortfall. However, that will push the shortfall out, or that'll push the time when it might go, quote, bankrupt, which it doesn't go bankrupt. The term bankrupt is actually a misnomer, because even when the quote trust fund runs out, there's still enough people working on the front end to pay about 78% of the benefits on the back end. And so what that means is if nothing's done and the Social Security trust fund does pretty much, the surplus runs out, then everybody's going to take a pay cut. That's really what that means. Now, so there's a lot of levers that I just mentioned that can be pulled there. And here's what I think is going to happen. Also, quiz. This is not the first time the Social Security Administration has been close to the surplus going away. It was back in the 80s when Social Security was originally even made taxable. So before 83, it was not taxable. And then it was within months of becoming insolvent. Months. Now we're pretty much a decade away from it becoming insolvent. They waited until they were months away, and then they finally put in some changes that kicked the can down about another 50 years or so. And so I'm not too confident that we're going to make any of these changes anytime soon. I think these changes are, again, going to be made at about the 11th hour. And because no politician really wants to mess with all these things, because that's going to hurt the reelect provisions. And so that's what I think. I think it's going to happen. There's going to be changes made, but I don't think there's going to be any changes that are going to be huge or soon to upset the apple cart. That's my own personal opinion. I could be completely wrong on that. I actually hope I'm wrong. This is one of the areas where I really hope I'm wrong. I hope that, within the next 4 years, maybe one of these changes is made, and then maybe in the next 4 years, maybe another one is made, and by the end, if they just do that the first one that I mentioned, just, increasing the, or I guess reinstating the tax on anyone that makes over 400,000, since that had the biggest, that was that hinge swung the biggest door, in my opinion. Well, not in my opinion, just based on the percentages themselves. 61%. Yeah, well, let's do that one. If we could do that one within the next 4-year presidential cycle, that'll kick that can down for quite a while. And then we might have a little bit of breathing room to really find out what else we might want to do. So that's what I think needs to happen. And you know what? The public really strongly wants all those things. That's what's key here. The public really does want these changes. And so, in my opinion, a lot of politicians that are afraid of making any moves to this Social Security system, I think they're missing the boat. Because if the public really, really wants this, I think someone should start making it a priority, and sooner rather than later, so that we don't end up, again, at the 11th hour having to make some drastic changes. If we make these changes now, maybe they don't have to be as drastic. So that's it, guys. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of confidence that Social Security is not going away. So if you're hitting, getting ready to hit 62, and you're thinking to yourself, you're going to claim now just to make sure that you get it because you think it's going to go away, I think that is the wrong thought process. Now, there might be other reasons. If you work with a planner that is experienced in Social Security planning and coupling the Social Security timing with the rest of your entire income plan and your retirement plan, if you're working with somebody that can do that and they say, yeah, it makes more sense for you to claim at 62, well, then by all means, claim at 62. But a lot of times that's actually what we find is not really the best option for most people. Could be, maybe not, right? The most popular time to claim actually right now, or age to claim Social Security, is 66. If you were born after 1943, but by 1954, if you're born by 1954, between those two, then you're 66 or 66 in like 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever, depending on the year of your birth. And then you hit 1954 and 1960. Those are the 66 and 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. Excuse me. I had to, if you're 43 to 54, 66 period is your full retirement age. But if you are born from 54 to 60, then that's when it's going to be 66 and 2 months, 66 and 4 months. So because of that, 66 happens to be the most popular age when people are claiming Social Security right now, according to an article on a US News. And then the second most popular time to claim is 62. So I don't, and a lot of, people that I hear, the reasoning is that reason right there. They don't know whether or not Social Security is going to be around, so they want to get while they can. And also some of them think they might die before the break-even age, which sometimes is around like 80, 82, somewhere around there, almost regardless of when you decide to claim. That's kind of how they've worked out the math. So guys, I don't think Social Security is going to go away. So if you're thinking to yourself, you're going to claim simply before that reason, and that's why you're going to claim early, I would revisit that thought process and then maybe actually work with a financial advisor to make sure that the rest of your income is going to be okay, regardless of what happens with Social Security. Maybe that's something that you need to have done. And so we do make ourselves available here as well. If you want to get with a 15-minute phone call to have us run through your situation to see whether or not you're going to be okay, even if Social Security does go away and maybe you take a 20% pay cut on your Social Security, what will happen? Will you be able to cover that? So we can do worst case scenario stuff like that. So if you are curious to find out if your Social Security can, the reduction in Social Security, if you'll still be okay, just give us a call. We're going to have a link to our calendar, free 15-minute phone call, and we can help you figure that out. So that's it, guys. Have a great day. See you here the next week when I do another one of these. We're always trying to bring information and education to empower you guys to live the retirement you deserve. Take care.